Just let it warm up. All right, welcome to the closing panel for the 2021 Greater Rochester Teen Book Festival. I am so excited to be here this afternoon, morning, with some incredible authors. Somehow I got this job and I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket afterwards that I got to do this. So I will you've spent all day with all these authors, but let's do a quick introduction. And I'll do it alphabetical order. Paul Griffin, Ellen Hopkins, A.S. King, and G. Neri. I am thrilled to have you here. We'll have a quick discussion about all things Greater Rochester Teen Book Festival. Hopefully it'll be funny and wise and all the things in between. So I'd like to start with the first impressions you've had, the first year you came, if you can think back that far of what you remember first that stood out to you about the Greater Rochester Teen Book Festival.
I've been there a long time. I think I came second year. So, and I think I've only missed one in between. So, and I'd done a lot of teen book festivals, obviously. It was, first of all, there was the energy of Stephanie who founded the event. And she was just always so amazing and so welcoming, and she made you feel really special. You know, the walking in with the red carpet and, you know, having your names on gold stars. And it's like, whoa, we have made it, haven't we? You know, but no, it's just, so out of all the book festivals I've gone to, this has always remained my favorite. And I think it's because of Stephanie, because of the great friends I've made at Rochester. And yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, you always kind of feel like a rock star when you go to schools and things like that. But when you go to Rochester, you actually feel like a rock star. I mean, the whole parade. I mean, I've never been in a parade. And then to walk into that auditorium with that reaction, it's like, you know, it's kind of Beatlesque in a way. The energy is just like, boom. And so that's kind of, you know, something you haven't seen anywhere else, just the sheer energy of the people that go there. And the fact that some of them, you know, get up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and get in a bus and they travel, you know, 4 hours or whatever, just to come see you is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in and say, like, yeah, but it's funny because I sit the only picture on my desk is the one I got from my very first TBF. It's Hawkeye Pierce from MASH. And it's the only picture on my desk. And it's the thoughtfulness that went into that. I did not expect it. So no one told me what was going to happen on that first night. So suddenly that rock star, it's exponential because you don't know what's coming. You don't know that there's going to be a parade. You don't know anything. And then the funny part is that when you come back and over and over and over again, you know there's going to be these things and they're still just as awesome. But for me, it was well, my first time it was meeting Ellen Hopkins. Now I'm being half funny, but not really. But the other part was meeting other authors, being able to have some quality time with them as well. That's always good for the authors. And on the other side, having lasting relationships. So you can't, if the first time you meet somebody and they're like, oh, you know, I love your book or I love your books or whatever. And that's like, you think this kid's just being real nice to you. That's it. You just think they're being nice to you. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But then like 3 and 4 and 5 books and years in and 10 years in and whatever, you have a lasting relationship with some of these young people who are now out of college and, you know, teaching kids themselves and this kind of stuff. And that for me is the biggest one. I had a philosophical question thrown at me by like a 24-year-old who I met when she was in 8th grade. And so the other day I checked my Twitter direct messages and there's this question and I'm like, always moving forward, these people, always moving forward. And I love it, but I love those connections and I have many of them. So it's kind of cool with the librarians as well, that the organizers, volunteers, generally, just a great group of people all together.
Well, first thing is, where the hell is my picture on your desk? After that.
I have one that I should frame, so we'll get to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to clarify that before we move on.
I have Ellen's. Ellen's over there.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. And Greg's probably on the show. So my first impression was I was walking with Matt De La Pena down a hallway in this very swanky hotel, and we were talking about folks, and I said, "Yeah, I really want to meet A.S. King." And then the elevator opened, and then Amy comes walking out, and she's got a tray of brownies, and she's like, "You come like this," and followed her into this party room, and she kind of plied me with brownies. She was like feeding me a whole tray of brownies. That's kind of the stuff that happens at TBF. You never know what's going to happen. I remember one year where some of us crashed a prom, a high school prom.
Yeah.
You know,
That's on my list to actually ask about. So maybe you want to go into that now.
yeah, you probably want to check with Ellen on that one because she was swinging from the chandelier. I wasn't part of that, but you know, but really the one thing that I think of when I think of TBF is Stephanie Switcherini. She's just I don't know. She's an angel, you know, and I think of the way things started to get tough for her. You know, she was out shoveling snow for the kids, you know, so the kids wouldn't slip in front of her library at night. And she's the one who slipped. And that kind of, you know, led to, you know, about 2 years of a lot of pain for her. And I was with her. She had me up for a week. The fall before the festival. And I remember when we said goodbye, she's kind of hugging me tight. And I said, "Oh, what are you talking about? I'm going to see you in a few months." She's like, I know. And that was the last time I ever saw her. I don't know that she was thinking about it back then, but it just, I definitely, I still have a picture of her on my desk. She's got her crazy dyed hair and she's looking at you with that great smile. And so still feel like she's with us.
Yeah, and I think she has that effect on everybody. You know, like I certainly didn't know her from anything, but the second, you know, she starts writing these emails to you, they're not just typical organizational emails. They're like very personable and kind of deep, and they're long, and it's like, don't you have like 1,000 people to talk to? You know, and then when you meet her, it's like you've known her forever, and even though she actually does have 1,000 people she has to deal with, you know, she can stop in the madness and have like a moment that's like just you and nothing else, you know.
And that's what makes it so real. So it goes, because I kind of wandered as usual. When I was talking, when I think about first impressions, I had the same deal. And it was sort of like, oh God, I'm sort of like, no, I'm a nobody in this place. And Stephanie made me feel like a somebody the minute I met her. And so did every volunteer on that committee. And they knew me because Hawkeye Pierce, of course they knew me. If you know my heart, Hawkeye Pierce. Yeah.
Yeah, the what was the word for that you used for the people, for the teens that accompany you? What are they called?
Zealots, I think.
It's really cool to have your own little entourage, and
Right.
they're all so excited. And it's like, you know, you could tell them anything and they would do it. And you know, you want to mess with them a little bit. You're like, see that guy over there in the third row? I don't like the way he's looking at me. And they're like, what do you want me to do? It's like,
going back to Stephanie for a minute, I think she really was the spark, right? She instilled all this magic into this festival, and now it's all up to all of us, right, to continue that work and to keep it going and build upon that fire in such a way, because it's such an important event for so many people. So thank you for participating and keeping that fire going. But I do want to get back to the prom, Ellen.
Ellen.
I can only imagine.
I'm not supposed to tell. We have had a lot of fun, and also, you know, we were at different locations, like different hotels and stuff too. Remember the first one? It was like that like the one you're talking about, that beautiful big old place up on the hill there in Rochester. That was the first hotel. I think we were there a couple years, and that was just like, it had such a cool atmosphere, you know what I mean? And then we kind of changed hotels a couple times, so the atmosphere there changed. But always what was fun, like it was Rochester, you know, we were like all, because they made sure we had this suite, right, for like, you know, food and like to hang out and stuff. So we were like all taking pictures in the hot tub together with clothes on,
One person didn't have clothes on, but we'll
Yeah.
let that go. Yeah.
There's always that one though, you know?
Absolutely. That was actually the next question they gave me was the hospitality suite. Any gossip that's safe to share?
Never. No.
I mean, that's like my favorite thing because, you know, a big part of why you like to do these things is you get to meet up with your friends that you kind of cross paths with in other parts of the country. And nobody gives you like your own suite just for authors. Nobody else is allowed in there, like fully stocked and everything. It's just your rompus room. And it's like crazy. In fact, now that I think about it, I think I met Paul in there the first time, maybe. I think so. He was in the hot tub. I don't know what he was doing, but
I didn't get into the hot tub. That was a little too much. You know, hot tub is for one person. I don't think, you know.
But yeah, it's just it's that kind of attention to detail and understanding like, oh, this would be really important for them, you know, and to do it. And it's like, and you look forward to it, you know.
I always love sitting in that hospitality suite because I would come up for school visits beforehand, which is always an honor kind of and a pleasure to come up for an extra few days. But I loved if I'm there on a Thursday and people were coming in on Thursday night or Friday, I'd go to the hospitality suite by myself and I'd just sit there and wait for people to come in. And so suddenly a person who's never been there before is nervous about the next day or whatever, you'd be like, just don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And you don't tell, it's almost like you don't tell them. Alan, I think you and I had this conversation with someone a few years ago where they were like, well, what's tomorrow going to be like? We're like, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And they're like, yeah, but like, what's it like? I've heard all these things. And we were just like, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And what's the dinner like? Don't worry about it. You're going to have fun. And we just kept saying it that way. But I love like, yeah, but other than that, it's all about mixed nuts and beer. Because they always have mixed nuts and I'm always down for the nuts and the beer.
And way too much candy, and
Candy.
you know, like whoa.
Yes.
Yeah, I went into that you know, pre-hospitality suite. I was a healthy human being, and I came out a diabetic alcoholic. You know, like cake and beer. You know, half Irish. It's just not good.
Well, it's like you spend so much of your time, right, writing in isolation and doing your, you know, you're committed at your table, your desk, wherever it is that you do your work. And then it's like coming together in these pockets of different festivals and different interactions. I mean, how does that change or hopefully enhance your writing as you move along to your next project?
Oh boy. I think after this last year, we all might have a really interesting answer to that if we put the two together. Because I'm used to spending a ridiculous amount of time in this chair. Fair enough, but during COVID, I couldn't hug anybody, I couldn't see anybody, and we didn't have these times. But I think meeting up with people and the mix of decompressing, but also just loving on each other, just generally just like loving each other is a huge thing and that I'm missing now. So it's almost like I have to intellectualize it to even answer that question, but it's really important. I'm pretty sure it's been so long. It feels like that I don't remember what it feels like.
I was like, everybody's like, so you're going to get vaccinated? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get vaccinated. I need hugs, man. I need to go out and be with friends. I need to go, you know, and we would do stuff like go look at the lilacs and go, you know, I mean, it wasn't even just being inside there, you know. And of course, Rochester in May, we could get rain, we could get snow, it was like hot, you know, it's crazy, but that's always part of the fun too. It's like, you never know until you get there. So like, how am I supposed to dress? I don't know. Look like
layers.
Inside, you know?
But also like the interactions with the teachers and librarians and the kids are really great. I mean, you get a lot of emails like, you won't remember me, but we met, you know, 8 years ago, da, da, da. And usually, you know, you've met like thousands of people, you know, you don't. But I've had the situations like, you won't remember me, but, you know, I met you 9 years ago in Rochester, da, da, da. And then I think it's like, yeah, I totally remember you. Even though we only talked for 2 minutes or whatever, it was just like in that place, things seem to, you know, live longer or have more of an impact on your brain somehow.
I agree. I just have to say that I agree. And I still get, I get me, Z Brewer and myself did twice. We did this panel where we basically just stood on stage and talked about our mental health issues and just general mental health issues, and really just getting into there were no boundaries, but in a good way, right? When it came to just being very open and very stigma free. And we still get letters. And so Z will get some and pass them to me. I'll get one, pass it to Z. It's just sort of, and that was years ago. I actually, for the first time I got it, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that panel. But then I remembered the kid. It's kind of amazing. And then I want to just put in, the librarians and teachers. That's an interesting thing. Like, I consider some of those people some of my very best friends. And I Zoom one of them, every other week, and I text every other day to some others. It's sort of interesting how close. I don't have that with another festival. Even ones that I've been to more than once. It just doesn't work that way. There is a magic there. Greg, there's a magic there.
Being an antisocial recluse, this was actually a good year for me. I didn't miss anybody, but
Miss me, Paul. Come on.
yeah, well, we can talk. We'll talk about that later. But no, I think the friendships that you make at TBF, they're really lasting. Like, I remember, Greg, you and I were hanging in Rochester, and then I saw you a couple of weeks later down in Florida, and I kind of remember we just picked up on it was like, I think you got pulled away when we were talking in Rochester, and we never finished the conversation, and then you're like, oh yeah, you jump right back in on the. So yeah, it's the friendships. You can't get rid of these people. They follow you.
Yeah.
How we are. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else I have up here. Authors missing the bus. So that was a great
I think that happened to me once.
I can't remember.
I think it was like, yeah, I missed the bus, but then I was able to catch up to one of the pickup trucks and jump on the pickup truck. Kind of thing.
I always miss the bus on the way home, which is a good sign. I'm sure we've all been there. It's a good sign to miss the bus the way home, because it means that you're having more time talking with students and with people. Your signing line was raucously long, Alan Hopkins, or anything like that, So I guess I missed the bus home. I don't think I ever missed the bus there, because I'm one of those rule followers. I know, doesn't seem it, but it's true. I don't want to. Well, I never wanted them to not ask me back, just to say, like, if I missed the bus, I'm like, oh no, they might not ask me back, and so, which I didn't understand until Stephanie.
The nights before, I think not missing the bus was actually pretty good. I don't think I ever missed the bus either. Yes. Going, I don't think so, but there's always somebody with a car somewhere that you can catch a ride with. Or
I missed it one time intentionally, because Terry Truman took me in his limo. He had a stretch limo, and he took me down to the where the heck we were going. He's like, you don't want to ride with that. You want to ride with me. Yeah. So I jumped on that.
It's good to know people. Okay, ask Amy about traveling pants.
Oh my gosh, I just saw them the other day. How cool. Yeah. Wow. So, wow, I don't know when that was, but I had these two pairs of jeans. And if you know my progression through jeans over the time of my TBF time, I went from only ever wearing men's Levi's 501s to actually wearing women's jeans now, which is weird. Not right today. No, because these are cut off men's jeans, because of course they are. But the point is, I had these two pair with me, and the fact I had grown out of them. They were too big, which is great and everything. But I was still wearing them because I'm a non-consumerist, and buying stuff used to freak me out. So I don't know why it happened. I can't remember. I was talking to Sarah. It was Sarah and one of the librarians, and I was like, "Hey, well, I could give you a pair of pants, and you could. I don't even know where this idea came from. It was an early morning, no caffeine idea, but I decided to give them my pants, and I don't want them anymore. I said, they're too big, and you can have them, and then you can just pass them around schools and have them. And I just wrote on the back pocket, A.S. King wants her pants back. And that's all it said. And then I just gave them to Sarah and said, do with these what you'd like. And of course, this is the thing about this volunteer committee. If you look at it throughout the years, like no matter what, there was just, they would find cool stuff. They'd be like, here's a pair of pants. Let's do something cool with this. So they had it go around to schools. And when I got the pants back the next year, they were completely decorated from top to bottom with cool stuff. So that was the traveling pants.
Yes. Speaking of clothing, this is one of my memories too, having to do with Neil Schusterman's belt and the dedication of librarians. Taking him like at 2 a.m. to get a new belt was like crazy. It's like, just give him a piece of rope. Wait, like try to find a belt at 2 a.m. I don't know, but that's how they're game for it. It's like, you need a belt, let's go get one.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, dedication to keep everyone happy, right? And feel special. I mean, the work that you do is incredible, and it's an honor for us here in Rochester for you all to come back year after year and share your honesty, your insights, your wisdom, your personal experience. I mean, we're very fortunate.
Listen to how you just put that. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say this for the sake of saying it. I work. This is a job. So what happens is I get a little thing that says, be here at this time. And I say, okay. And I show up at the airport and I do the thing and I get to the place and I go to the room and then I get to the event and they're like, be here, do this, do that. And I do the things and then I leave. And it's not to say people don't say thank you. They do. And it's not to say that other places aren't fantastic. They are. But there's something so different in this than what you just said. And whether it's to make you feel comfortable or makes you feel, it was the appreciation in what we do. And it sounds weird, but when you're in the business, you're working with everybody who does the same stuff. I don't feel all that special in this crew. Like Ellen does what Ellen does, G does what G does, Paul does what Paul does. We do what we do. You make films. We all make art. That's great. We're nothing special, but we are. And in Rochester, I felt it. That thing, the dream that I had when I first started writing, like when I was 24 and I was like, ooh, novels, I love this. That feels fulfilled at Rochester. And I hate to, I'm not saying not anywhere else, but not the same way. Not the same way. There's an appreciation and it's different. Am I right, guys? I'm not really just talking it up, right?
I think a lot of it is the way the teachers and librarians prepare the kids to come in as well.
Yeah.
And because you always do, you feel really treasured there. And especially like you go to Miami or you go to Texas or one of these giant big festivals and it's fine, but I mean, there are so many people that you just get lost in the crowd, right? Rochester, you don't get lost in the crowd at all.
I also love like just the fun of it. I mean, the whole like, I forget what you call it, but the little talent show bit at the beginning, like, authors who think of themselves too seriously, it's like you can't get past that moment. And, a young person's gonna dig that, like this author who you think of as like, is willing to do, something ridiculous and make themselves look foolish for you, right? And so that's pretty cool.
So that brings up, what was your truth or talent?
Oh boy.
Oh.
I recited the alphabet backwards in about 5 seconds.
Wow, that's awesome.
I will always I think Neil Schusterman beats us all with this one. I don't know about y'all, but with the clapping with one hand, every time.
Gives me nightmares.
It is like a rubber arm. He has a rubber arm.
Yeah.
But mine is that I can read minds. And the funny part is
right.
at lunch that day, it was Neri, it was Greg.
She freaked me out.
I freaked Greg out. I didn't realize because he was so confident and calm, like real cool. And at lunch, he's like, so man, tell me this. And he's trying to ask me like, at least I looked at him like, why are you asking me these questions? But yeah, like, so I read minds. That's what I would do. I would do that in front of the kids. So it wasn't as embarrassing as it was totally cool.
Yeah, I did. I was going to do one thing one year, and then Jay Asher came up to me and he said, do you want to sing a Selena Gomez song with me? And I was like, I guess, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, it would like no rehearsal or anything. We just like, I was doing the beatbox back up, so it was pretty ridiculous.
I have no talent. I'm friends with Ellen a little bit, when she has to be with me, but that's it.
I don't know. You don't want to hear me sing. That's For sure.
I can't remember.
Outside, but I'm not singing in front of people. No way.
I can't remember any of the other ones. That's the funny thing. But it's only because someone took a great picture of me reading minds that time, and I was wearing a really great skirt. I had one of those moments where you're just like, I'm wearing Doc Martens and that skirt. I remember that day, and then I forget all other truth or talents. I think it's though because I was mortified because I have stage fright. As crazy as it is, you can put me in front of 10,000 people, and I'll make a speech, an impassioned speech about teen literacy or whatever, or trauma and that kind of stuff, or mental health. But to actually like for 1 minute, like sing a Selena Gomez song, I'd lose it. I just, my whole brain shuts down and I completely block that whole thing out because I have stage fright, legit.
I wonder if there's video of that Selena Gomez.
There is.
Oh gosh.
I'm not going to tell you where.
We'll find it. Okay, ask Paul how much like Mr. Rogers he is.
Mr. Rogers?
That's what it says in my notes here.
Mr. Rogers, he's got that red sweater. I'm 3 colors and they're not red. It's black, gray, black. That's it. You know? I don't do the red sweater.
Really, you're the punk rock
Mr. Rogers.
Mr.
Maybe the handyman. Handyman. I do the handyman.
I'm going to argue and say, actually, Paul, I think you're very like Mr. Rogers. You're incredibly kind and you promote kindness. Okay, no, I'm going to embarrass Paul because he wouldn't answer the question seriously. So I'm going to do it for him. I describe Paul Griffin as one thing, and it's actually made people jealous in my life. It's made people curious. It's made people kind of look at me sideways to think like, are you in love with Paul Griffin? Well, in a special platonic way, yes, I am. But I describe Paul Griffin as made of light, made of pure light. That's what I've always said. Yeah. Well, you brought it on yourself by not answering the question, bud. So there you go. So, but he's made of light, and it's so funny because the first time, I can't grab it, but I have a crocheted squid over here. There's something you don't hear often, but TBF. I have a crocheted squid named Paul, after Paul Griffin, and that was the first time I met you, Paul. And I was like, who is this positive, wonderful force of nature? And actually just speaking to him the other week reminded me like, yes, you can have this amazing attitude. If you want to have an amazing attitude, you can have one. And that's what Paul Griffin does for me. So there you go, Mr. Rogers. That's what Mr. Rogers also did for me. Made me feel safe and warm. And that's what I think. That's what I think, Paul.
And welcome, because I remember the first time I met you, Paul, it was the same thing. It was like I knew you forever, even though I just met you, which was kind of weird to say, but it's like, and that's because you made me feel that way. You just like, so how you doing? Gather me in, just like we've known each other forever. And now we have known each other for almost ever, but for a number of years, but
just in awe, This is getting like that scene where Tom and Huck, like they're coming back and they're like walking to the church and everybody's saying all these nice things about these dead people. And then they realize it's them, it's their funeral. So
you are very much
not
alive.
a funeral, I promise.
You're very much alive, Paul.
But
When I think of Paul, I think of hand puppets. That's the only connection I have with Mr. Rogers.
It's so funny because I'm probably the only one with a hand puppet within reach. So I just want to say I have one right here. It's me.
of course you do.
It's a sock puppet. Good, isn't
Nice.
it?
that is adorable. Oh my gosh.
And so perhaps Amy doesn't have your picture on her desk, but she has a squid named after you.
Yeah.
Wait, I remember
It's
this.
even better.
I
Even better.
remember this.
And that was crocheted by a TBF librarian, Kim Merlot.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Kim's nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think, I think what resonates with all the teens and librarians and educators is the honesty that you pour into your books. Like I said, I've been reading you all this week very fast. And, I make documentary films and it's about the reality, and all of these books that I've read by each of you has that experience that feels so authentic and so honest and no holds barred, which is what young adult author or readers want at that point in their lives. Like there's an honesty that you're giving them that they may not be getting other places.
That's why we get banned.
Proudly, right, Ellen? Proudly.
Because the kids like it, but their parents don't always like that honesty. So I'm
The
like,
parents don't like to remember. And this is the thing about being a teen. And this is why we're all teen advocates. I can speak for all of us here, I think, and please correct me, but I think I'm a teen advocate because the minute you turn 20, you try and forget your teen years. And I'm there going, why? Teens are awesome. Teens live in this beautiful emotional space, and adults need to do that more often. And that's what my next book's about. It's just all about like stopping this whole, oh, stop, keep your emotions in check, and all this stuff. It's sort of like, don't keep your emotions, scream when you see your favorite author, be unbelievably welcoming and kind when you see somebody you love. That's the whole point, and we tend to dull that down the older we get, right?
So then as you go further and further into adulthood, how do you maintain your octopus tentacles onto that period of life? Like, how do you keep that?
It's really easy when you do school visits, to me. I mean, I just went through a period where I just did, almost, I want to say 80 school visits this year. Yeah, just virtually, because you can just line them up and do it. And just like the energy you get is, you can immediately get into that headspace. And I find them very easy to talk to, like even easier than adults. And so, I like to say, like, my brain inside operates like a 13-year-old, so when I'm with other 13-year-olds, it's like, hey, you can easily get into that headspace.
For me, so school visits, which is what I actually really miss the in-person school visits, like a lot, because you can do it this way, you can do it and you can get it, but it's not exactly the same thing as, like, for me, because I write in a space where a lot of kids live, and it's a painful space, and so there will always be that the kid that waits till everybody leaves the room, and then they come up and they talk to you, very specifically. And those are also these places where we build relationships with individual kids, which I know it probably seems like, oh no, you wouldn't do that, but we do. And it's like, and the weird thing for me is, like, when I get emails from kids, they never call me Ms. Hopkins. They never call me Mrs. Hopkins. It's always straight to Ellen. Always straight to Ellen. And it's not like I said, just call me Ellen. It's just they feel comfortable doing that because they know that there's no judgment here. They know that I respect these spaces that they live in. And I think that's what it is that we have for kids that sometimes people that come to writing for kids don't get, is respect for them. And to write where they live, not where we think they should live or like that. And so that's what I miss about school visits.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, I think we all would, again, I think we'd all agree. I mean, we're adults. We go through the world as adults. We have our own adult problems, but at the same time, we'll go back to emotions, right? Because that's what a book conveys in a way, that conveys story. What hooks you, I think, is emotion. And my emotions are no different than a 15-year-old's emotions. And I know this because I've been reading my journals from when I was 15 years old. And my communication style might be a little different. Certain other things might be different. And, I was really bummed about having to mow the lawn. Like, now I'm a little more bummed about, I don't know, the mortgage, but like, there's no huge difference. And I mean, I refuse to put myself above anybody, but especially to be, and that is a rare thing. We have to remember, we live in a society that encourages the bullying of teenagers, right? If they love a thing, we have to roll our eyes at it. If two newscasters are talking about Justin Bieber, okay, that's 10 years ago. I don't watch TV, so I'm a little behind. But if they're talking about Justin Bieber 10 years ago, they'll laugh. Oh, the kids today. It's like, oh, shut up, right? Anything a kid likes, they'll make fun of, and it's weird. But we're living in this weird society that encourages the bullying of our most tender people, and it's certainly hitting our most tender people, considering the mental state of that age group and that generation. But I refuse to fall into that. And I think all of us do. Otherwise, we wouldn't work for teens and write for teens.
Yeah. And I think,
I should say,
one thing that's apparent when we go into a school is, I go into situations all the time where a teacher, somebody says, like, this group is out of control. They're never going to sit there for an hour and listen to you.
Exactly.
And, within 2 minutes, it's like you can hear a pin drop, and they're zeroed in for the entire hour. And afterwards, that person comes up to me. It's like, how did you do that?
How did you do
it's
that?
Like,
exactly.
It's pretty easy, actually, when you talk to somebody and not at somebody, and you consider yourself as equals and not as, well, I'm here and I'm going to bestow my knowledge upon you. But no, we're in a room, we're having a conversation. I happen to do this, you happen to do that, but there's a lot of things I don't know about this place. And I want to know what you guys are doing. And, so they really respond to that, plus then they've read your books. And so they know like, okay, I can say certain things to this person. It's cool, so that's like the biggest thing, and it's like a two-way street. Like I feel as much as I might inspire somebody, I get as much inspiration easily back.
Easily. Yeah, man.
Which is interesting too, because Amy still has a 13-year-old. Your daughter's 13, right? Mm-hmm. She's at home, and I've been raising a few generations of kids, and I still have a 12-year-old here that's who I've been yelling at. Would you please take that puppy out before she decides to poop on the floor, okay? But when you're raising them, it's a different thing because, you have to parent, and so the other spaces we don't have to parent, we can actually be friends with them, and they get that we want to be their friend, and that's important. I mean, it's just so important to have those, to remember. I like just going to schools and listening to kids talk. Yep. When they don't think you're listening to them, you get good stuff. What I mean? You know what they're worried about. What's hurting them. What's making them feel really happy. And it's like that's what I think we do. We're observers. Writers are observers, right? And so I always tell kids, go, well, what should I do when I be a writer? I'm like, be a voyeur, man. Go places and listen to how people talk. Look at how people treat their kids or their friends or whatever, and you can become those people for a little while, and then you can bring that stuff onto the page later if you need to. So yeah, be a people watcher, I'm like, so if you see me looking at you, you never know, you could end up in a book somewhere.
So are your teenagers constantly going, stop, I'm not material? Like, do they ever throw that at you?
But they are.
Our own, I mean, my life is always material, and I don't know, like we don't really get into those conversations, and I try and keep my kids out of my books, but at the same time, that's impossible because there's certain things, like there's certain experiences you will never be able to, and the three I just thought of were so inappropriate, which just shows you the nature of my books, but because I did use them, but I can't talk about them here. But those are experiences that I wouldn't have had I not had a 10-year-old who was curious about whatever and Googled whatever, and that kind of thing. So, and I had to use it because there was no replacement for that laugh. It was just too good. But yeah, I mean, at times, yeah, my older daughter would definitely be like, you're not going to use, this isn't about me, is it? I'm like, no, of course not. And I don't, but yeah, I don't know. It's funny too, because the difference, right? I think we all have had this at times, but like why can't you take me seriously like the TBF kids do? Why can't you go, oh man, you're cool, like the TBF kids do? And you're like, oh, because I have to be a parent, right? Whatever.
Yeah, only recently have I gotten that. Like my daughter used to say, for things like that, it's like, why do all those people want to listen to you? Like it didn't make sense. Like
it's so good to hear that.
I mean, they took a bus for 4 hours to hear you.
Right? Yeah. I got it this morning. I got a "You're a Cool Mom" this morning, and I was like, I'm going to put this in my pocket for the next 5 years because that might be the only
now I get the cool, like I hear from her friends, like I see the reaction from her through her friends because they will say things she won't say. So.
Gotcha.
I weaponize it. I like, if my daughter's getting out of line, I'll just say, you're being really obnoxious. That's going right in the book with your name on it. You're that character's name. She called me bro the other day. I'm like, okay. She used to call me papacito,
Right.
It's so sweet.
Like,
and then now she's like,
yo,
bro.
Yo, bro.
Liv calls me bruh. Yo, bruh. I don't know.
I get brought at home a lot too.
Yeah.
Oh God.
My 24-year-old actually got a girlfriend because I was his mom.
Ellen,
I've had a few of those.
Coolest, though. You are the coolest.
I've had a few of those, but they break my kids' hearts.
But,
She was only dating me because you were you. I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, but I didn't know that. It wasn't like I was advertising it. She just needed a ride home from school. I did not realize that this was the situation. And yeah, so that happens on the
well,
other
that girl turned out to be really not the right girl for him. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
right, exactly.
I'm like, just don't tell him.
Yeah, that's the flip side, right? Is that aspect too. How has marketing, switching gears completely now, how has marketing teen literature changed since, have you seen an evolution since your first experience at TBF?
I'm going to just start by saying I'm not a marketer. I have nothing to do with sales. That's my dad. I can give you his number. I have no idea how marketing's changed. I never looked into marketing. I'm an artist. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know if it has changed or if I don't even know. For me, it hasn't. Basically, I'm still just under here going, hi. And people can find me if they pick up a rock and find one of my books. That's usually how it works. They got to pick up a rock though to find my books. And that's okay. I don't mind. I like that it's a treasure hunt to find me. I think that's cool.
I mean, I think it's like this morning I was on Twitter and the announcement came up like you were going to do this panel, right? And so I said, oh yeah, that reminds me, I'm going to be there. So, and then this girl goes like, are you just going to go as an attendee? Or I'm like, no, I'll be on panels. And so social media, marketing is like, you don't even always mean to do it. It's just like, it happens sometimes like that.
Yeah.
But, and so now she's all excited because, it's also cool because going virtual, you don't have to be from the Rochester area to register and go. So that's going to be interesting too. It'll be interesting to see the energy.
Yeah. I mean, I think of marketing in terms of like, I like to hit big, I like to go for the big fish, and where you can hit as many people at once as possible. And then they're all going to go home and they're going to, if they liked you or your book, they're going to talk about it or spread the word. And then those people are going to spread it, especially if they're teachers and librarians in schools. And that kind of tentacle approach to me is good. And Rochester's kind of like the granddaddy, because that's like the biggest crowd you'll ever kind of hit at once. And then you got all your little breakoffs and everything. But yeah, it's good.
I'm sure you've been asked this a ton of times, but when you were, say, 14 or 15, could you have seen yourself doing what you're doing now? Or what was it that you wanted to be at that point in your life?
I always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't think I was going to be a name. I never thought I'd be a name. It was just, I wasn't even sure how I was going to make money doing it. I just knew that was something that I really wanted to do because, and early on I was a freelance journalist. So I found a way to do it other than writing novels because I knew it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, I like to say I'm an accidental writer because it was never something that was even a molecule of a thought in my head, even like 20 years ago. And it just kind of happened through a series of accidents, which the kids like, because then I could talk about, it's like you never know what opportunities are going to pop up. And most people don't recognize opportunity when it's presented to them because your doubt pops in and say, well, I'm not really qualified to do that, or I wasn't trained to do that, or I didn't go to school to do that, so therefore I can't do it. To me, it's like, if there's an opportunity that's unusual and unexpected, I like to jump at it. But the other thing is, like, I was incredibly shy. Like, I couldn't stand up in front of 10 people and talk. And now I have I can stand up in front of 1,000 people and just wing it off the cuff, and it's like easy. Yep. I'm not quite sure where that transition happened, but part of it has to do with just the energy you get from that crowd. And the more you don't take yourself seriously, the easier it is, I think, in a way.
True. I might be the only one. I don't know. I haven't heard from Paul yet, but I, at 14 years of age, had a legal tablet because if you saw my desk, there's 5 of them. And of course I had a legal tablet in 8th grade. And I had I'd fallen in love with Paul Zindel. This is actually the book from the library, that actual school library. I stole it with all of Paul Zindel's books. I still own them. I've apologized to every librarian in the country for it, but this book became my heart because I saw myself in it. And there's something about this book that did something for me in 1983. And so I was standing in the lunch line and I wrote on my legal tablet, I want to write books that help adults understand teenagers and help teenagers understand adults. And then I brought it home and explained, and my folks are very, very supportive people, but they were also very practical and very German. And so they said, no. First they said, you can work for the paper. And then my grades were so bad. And that was the thing. I had such bad grades. I was so uninterested. I was very bored in school. And so I was discouraged generally on the school side, not so much my parents, but it was just sort of like a no-brainer, like your grades suck. So no, you can't be an author. Authors are smart people. They knew I was smart. It was just like I wasn't smart enough to figure out I should get good grades anyway. But I waited 10 years. So I wrote that when I was 14 and I had I didn't think I would do it. I did take some like poetry classes in high school and stuff like that. And I kept journals, which was a very important thing that I did. Very important for all kinds of reasons. But then once I got far enough away from my hometown, which was 3,000 miles, I was in Ireland and I happened to have a typewriter in front of me. I was like, I think I'll give it a shot. And I just started like writing. And so I did know when I was 14 and 15 that I wanted to write books. And I knew I wanted to write the books that were in my head, not the books that would make millions of dollars, whatever. I mean, I don't care about the money. It's just not the ones that were in other people's head that other people wanted. I wanted to write whatever was going on in here. And I got to do that. How fortunate, how completely lucky am I? I am the luckiest person in the world.
We're luckier because we know you.
Oh my God, Paul. Okay.
Okay, Paul, buy in here. We want to know, what did you want to do at 14?
I gotta say it was two things for me for the writing. One, I read The Exorcist, and that book just really felt like there were things happening in the room right behind me. There were things under the bed, and I thought, wow, these are just words on a page. This is incredible that I'm actually feeling this. So I started trying to just dream my way out of my childhood, I guess. I wanted to play third base for the Mets. I wanted to be a pole vaulter. I wanted to go into the Army. I wanted to do all these different things. And I started writing them down. And I would go visit my grandmother every couple of weeks, and she'd say, so what is it this week? What do you want to be? And I'd tell her the new dream. And I'd always had a little notebook with me. And she said, well, why don't you just do that? Why don't you just write your dreams? Why don't you just be a lot of different things? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, be a writer. And that's really was one of those moments where just the light went on. And it was probably 14, Amy, you said. Yeah. So that was my year, and I was 42 when I was published. So
yeah, I was 40, so same deal. Or 41 or whatever. Yeah.
They say that first novel, right? It was my 24th. So
same.
It just takes a while, that dream. I guess you don't get sick of it because you just get to escape, or I used to say I wrote to escape, but now I think it's to confront, just to kind of look at what's the things that are really troubling me recently and just try to work that out. What really helps to write that stuff down, and then you get those crazy folks talking in your head, and then they just start taking off, and you're following them, and you don't know where it's going. It's a clown car, you just follow it, and, it's fun, like who would you guys want to make a lot of money for Rochester, raise money? Just like sit down, like have an auction for an hour with Ellen, and really have her tell you where her stories come from. It's like these stories are so heartbreaking and so uplifting at the same time. It's like and just the way you do it, Ellen, it's to get behind that, to see how that all happens. That would, I think, you go to school and you do it all.
Probably scare people.
No, it's riveting every time. I mean, every time you tell a new story, it's just.
I think what you just said, I just wrote down, it's a clown car for myself. I put things here that are wonderful to help me write. But I think it's interesting you said that, Paul, that you're confronting, that you do it to confront, because that's the one thing that teenagers aren't allowed to confront. right?
Mhm.
They're not. So when we confront our stuff in our books, like people are like, do you have to go back to your teen years? And it's funny because I have my journals right there. I'm like, no, I'm not going to write down some of the, I was upset because my boyfriend walked in front of me with his friend. Like, that's really not a plot point, right? It could be like a little scene. That's fine.
Mhm.
But what I'm really writing out is my stuff. And they're like, well, how can that connect? I'm like, look, I'm 51. These kids are flipped to a number 15. And there's no difference in the fact that I'm frustrated or hurt or this or that. And we go back to the emotions, you know, but it's kind of funny. And it is a clown car. I think that's a great way to put it.
Or a TBF bus is the same thing, right?
Well, that is a clown car. Yeah.
So I think
Volkswagen.
so we'll close with what do you think TBF's legacy is? We'll go around with that as a circle and we'll end the panel there.
I mean, I think TBF is an example for what a teen book festival should be, or you know, any kind of event like that. I always hold them up as an example, and I think anybody that's interested in creating an event for teens is powerful and fun, and it's like, and it's only one day, you know, but it's like there's so much takeaway from that day. I mean, we all go back exhausted because like there's so much that we're packing into that one day, and I know the kids must too. But I think I would hold it up as an example of what you want something like this to be. And again, we go back to Stephanie and her vision, and it's her legacy. You know, I mean, it's her legacy.
I mean, I've actually held it up as an example for like people who are trying to organize a teen festival. And I'm like, well, just look at them, see what they talk to somebody there and see how they break it down and just do what they do, because apparently it works. You know, it's like the energy and commitment everybody has across the board is really pretty astonishing. And you know, I don't know how you get to that point. Like, I can imagine like you started here, and then it, you know, just grows like a ripple effect. But yeah, you have to start with a core that just emanates that energy and that love and that passion, and it just catches and it goes, you know, you can actually see it just like ripple, you know.
I was on a plane, which I always drive to Rochester. I take the drive up, but I was on a plane once because I was on tour, and I came to Rochester, and I sat next to this person, and they said, "Why are you coming?" And I explained, and I had to explain to them because I've worked on library boards, I've worked inside library systems before, and what's interesting, and that was on the public side, and in that particular place, the public librarian really wouldn't communicate with the high school librarian, which I was very confused about because I had been to TBF, and I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't talk to each other? Like, what? Don't you go to like each other's houses and babysit for each other and do have dinner every month together? Like, it was so strange. And so what I realized is, like you, Greg, people would say to me, how do I do this? We want to do this here. And I'd be like, how are your public and school librarians? How do they connect to, like, how is that community? And what I realized is that the more I'd answer that, I'd hear answers to that question. They weren't great, or they were non-existent. And I thought, so I'm on this plane and I say to this person, I'm like, you're from Rochester? And they said, yes. You have no idea how amazing your librarians are. I don't just mean Rochester in the middle. I mean all the way around, the whole crew. They're unbelievable. And, you know, we'll say these are teen librarians. Remember this, right? These are teen and children's librarians oftentimes. But that, for me, the legacy of being able to work together, to be able to give their time and energy. And that definitely was started by Stephanie. Stephanie put out the call, and the fact that it was answered in such a wide way is fantastic. The fact that it's everybody from people high up in library systems, people who teach library science, people who are, you know, right there on the ground in schools or in public libraries. That for me is the legacy, like, and for the example, going deeper into it, the example for how areas can work together to, again, we're going to boost up teen literacy. And I mean, I didn't get to talk about my love for teen literacy as a former literacy teacher, but like, it's a huge deal. Having teen literacy is a huge deal. So if you want to secure the socioeconomic futures of your children in your town, you want to make sure that your school librarian talks to your public librarian. It sounds really simple and dumb, and yet it's true. And it can create something like this, which is a lasting legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, all across the country, like, you know, there's a, you know, when you meet a librarian, there's just a different, you know, most of you, Linda, you work way too many hours. You don't get paid enough, and you know, your job really only attracts people who are there for the kids. And I think it's a little different though at Rochester. I really do feel that there is an emphasis on connecting the kids with what they want. And I know that's across the board with all teen librarians, but I'm just going to give you one example. Beth, I was working at her school, and I'd been going for 4 years in a row. And there was a young woman who would always bring me some of her writing, you know. And when she graduated from Beth's school, Beth said, "So listen, you know, we got to go to lunch. We got to go meet Sydney." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I really miss her. That's, you know." She said, "She's been writing something that's, I want you to take a look at what she's writing. I think she's definitely onto something big." And, you know, who does that? Like, who blocks out that much of her own day, you know, to get two people together, but, you know, just says, "Hey, we're going to go do this." I think people are afraid to ask us sometimes to do things, you know, but really we love doing that stuff. That's why we do the gig, right? I mean, it's just so fun getting to work with teens. But I feel, I guess what I'm saying is, you all in Rochester are completely shameless. Like, you will just absolutely, you know, grind us down to get us to connect with the kids. So that's why I love you. Thank you for beating us up.
We try. Well, thank you. We'll try not to beat too hard, but hopefully the next iteration of the Greater Rochester Teen Book Festival will all be back in person, and it'll be a very different experience. And we've all been vaccinated, and we can hug and hug and hug until it hurts. Hopefully we can get to that point. So thank you for taking this hour and spending this time and spending all day with all of us. It's been an incredible experience, and we look forward to reading what you write next.
Thank
We'll
you.
look forward to next year.
Look forward to next
Yes,
year. Look forward to this year too. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes,
Except now this is going to, hold on, this will be at the end. So this year was great. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But next year's
This
going
was
to
the
be
best year.
better.
This was
That
my
thing that
favorite
happened
year.
at lunch with you in the cafeteria, it was
I know.
crazy.
Well,
I
she's
know, yeah.
clairvoyant, so she knows what's going on already.
Watch yourselves. I am actually. So
Linda, one request. Can we stay at that hotel next time? It's kind of like The Shining.
I'll
The
work on
hotel we
that.
stay at, that was like,
The
that's the
Shining
first
Hotel.
one. I know what it
Like
was
that.
called. Yeah, it's a good place.
it's creepy. Man, so